Rommel, can you tell me about growing up in Bulolo?
Okay, so I've spent most of my youth in Bulolo, from 16 months old all the way up to 12 years old. Um, and I made lots of friends there with the locals, especially. And it was just a really nice place to live where I knew everybody and developed lots of good friendship, developed good values of respect and love for everybody. That's what I remember about growing up there.
Okay, tell me about your years in Bulolo, your schooling, when you first went there, and your years of schooling in Bulolo.
Okay, so I attended the in preschool. I attended the Bololo International Preschool, just up the end there, and then later on I went to the Bololo International Primary School. That was a good experience too, in a way, because I had classmates from Philippines, from Japan, from Finland, from Sweden, I think. Um, Even New Zealand and Australia, and Malaysia and Indonesia too. So I learned to live and cooperate and work and exchange and do things and different activities with my classmates. And it was just a really nice place to be there at that time.
You went there in 1975 when you were a newly born baby.
Yes.
Yeah, so can you tell me about those early years?
Okay, so I was born in 75. My father was working there in 74. And then I followed with my mother in 76 when I was just 16 months old. And from that young age, I learned a lot about Filipino culture, about living in PNG. So I learned about PNG culture. Then that's where I was exposed to Australian culture, because at that time, those days, there was lots of Australian influence, expats living and working in throughout PNG, throughout Bololo as well. And so that helped form me as a young man, as a young boy, and then later on as a young man when I went to high school later on.
So so tell me what happened after you left the primary school in Bulolo.
So at that time, my parents felt it would be good for myself to go to study in Australia in a boarding school, because of my youth spent growing up in Papua New Guinea. They felt it would be worth for me to go to Australia. I felt better to come to Australia than Philippines, because I did not speak the language in the Philippines. I did not want to go to a new place. I was more familiar with Australia and PNG. And so, with my parents' blessing, my parents' decision, I said, I want to go, let's go to Australia. And that's where I went. I attended boarding school in Cairns. And again, another place where I learned to live amongst many different people, different cultures during that time in Cairns.
Okay, and so even to this day, you still feel a close attachment to Papua New Guinea.
Yes,
Can
I
you tell
still
me
do.
why?
Why? It's always been for me. Well, how can I say this? But the close attachment is because of the respect for the people. When I saw people that I knew, I call them auntie or uncle or by their first name. I greeted them, shake their hands, and I felt like they treated us like we're part of them, part of their family sometimes. And just to see them, and of course my classmates who are Papua New Guineans, I got to grow close to them. And we were always, whenever have holidays, sometimes we see each other at the pool or at the market or walking down the road, and we'd so often say hello. So that was my neighborhood, and that's part of growing up there. A different time and place where you could walk freely and say hello to everybody and not worry about anything else. It was just such a nice place to be at.
So next year, Papua New Guinea turns 50. Can you give me your reflections of the last 50 years and your hopes for the next 50 years for the country?
Oh, I think one wish I have for Papua New Guinea is that Papua New Guinea will grow to be a lot more um, I grow to be a lot more confident in themselves as a nation state, because things are changing in the Pacific, and I just wish every Papua New Guinean can be brave enough to stand up and be counted, and to be a bit more assertive and a bit more inclusive, to include everybody to make decisions for the country, especially with our leaders, the PNG leaders, both in politics but also in community, to make the hard decisions. It's not easy to make those hard decisions, but I believe if people have a vision and people have a following and can do the right thing for the benefit of people, for the community, I think that there would be an opportunity for PNG to grow better and stronger. For example, in areas of employment, I know there's a lot of big unemployment issue there. If people can start to generate income or generate business, start creating new opportunity for Papua New Guineans, I think that would be a really good way to start Papua New Guinea moving forward as a country, as a business nation, to move forward in the Pacific and beyond this next 50 years.
Anything else you want to say?
Oh, I can say every time I think of PNG, I'm reminded of the pride I have, because many years I grew up there. I got to have a soft place in my heart, you know. I was telling you earlier that you can take me out of PNG, but you can't take PNG out of me, you know, and that's, I guess that's pride. I think that's also North Star centering of where I was. I have a mix of emotions because I'm Filipino. I grew up in Bulolo, PNG. I live now here in Australia, and most of my time I do think about my friends in PNG, Bulolo, and elsewhere in PNG there. But I also think about here, and I wish that we could all share in this vision that there are more things to come. People should look forward to more positive things to come and create those opportunities for more positive things to come too. So that's what I like about PNG. That's why it's a soft heart. Whenever I see them on the world stage at sporting arenas, say Commonwealth Games, Olympic Games, rugby league, okay, culture, all the cultural exchanges, I have pride because I knew growing up, I understand the history, I understand the culture, I understand the Melanesian way. So I have a soft spot. That's why I have a soft spot for PNG.
Can you show me your shoes?
Oh,
Yeah. I noticed you've got you painted Bulolo on your shoes.
Yeah, so this is my story. I did this during COVID. I wrote down Mangi Bulolo PNG, and I drew the Ragiana bird. I'm supposed to put the gray, and that was inspired from flying in New Guinea all those years ago, back in the 80s and 90s. I just want to put myself there in Bulolo PNG because, you know, in this day and age, sometimes we get lost in who we are, and I do this to remind myself, this is where I grew up, this is my friends and family, and maybe one day I'll go back to visit again because it's such a special place for me growing up there. There's no other place like it in the world, and that's what I love about PNG.